Hello everyone, this is Brooke, analyst from TID Research, and today I would like to quickly talk about the upcoming upgrade to the Ethereum mainnets, the FuSaka and Glamsterdam. So FuSaka is expected to take place later this year during November, which is less than 6 months away from the most recent upgrade, Pectra. And the Glamsterdam, while the exact timeline is not confirmed, is also expected to take place in the first half of 2026 next year. And so in this video, I would like to talk about what are all these upgrades about and what kind of goals are the researchers and the developers putting together these IPs are trying to achieve. Starting from Pectra. So when we talk about this, there are actually a list of upgrades implemented during each of major upgrade. So one of the most important and also interesting upgrade that been executed during Pectra is the EIP 7702. So EIP 7702 is a set code for EOAs. It means that enable your EOA, which means that your normal wallet, for example, MetaMask or like Rabbit, to act like a contract wallet. So it is like extension that can be installed on top of your EOA wallet. And with this extension, you'll be able to use some of the smart contract wallets function. For example, transaction bundle. And then the use case for this one is, for example, when you are doing the swap, and when the price is like moving very fast, you can just bundle the transaction and the swap transaction all within one transaction, and it will be executed. So this is what EIP 7702 is about. So you can see this EIP is actually trying to improve the user's experience in terms of when they're interacting with the Ethereum mainnets. So in this case, people can actually bundle more than two, like actually a lot of transactions altogether, and therefore have better user experience. And then for the upcoming FuSaka and the Glamsterdam upgrade, in addition, instead of focusing on the user experience, the developers are trying to focus more on the infrastructure. In the Pectra, they're trying to improve the user experience through providing more function to allow user to interact with the mainnet differently. And in FuSaka, they're trying to work on the infrastructure so that while the user are still using the same functions as before, they get to use it with better experience. For example, the transaction processing time will be shorter and there will be less latency, and overall to make Ethereum more capable. So not just from the user experience, but also from the infrastructure's perspective. And I think before we dive into these two upgrades, first we can probably talk about the decision process all this researcher have to go through to put together all EIP Ethereum improvement proposal. But when the researchers gather on a bi-weekly basis to talk about all those important topics happening around in other ecosystem. And then during this consensus, they tend to run different kind of protocol on EVMs. There are validators running, or maybe they're the builder of an infrastructure, like for example, not a software. So they get to know what users would like to have from Ethereum. They are at the front line dealing with this kind of issues. So during this call, they raise the issues, and all the core developers in this call, this call is called ACDC. They will discuss and then propose what kind of changes can be made to make Ethereum more capable. So when they reach consensus, or they will do the temperature check, and when they believe that idea is really good, these developers are not just coming from the Ethereum foundations, they may be also coming from the protocols on EVM, the software development company for people to run it, or the non-operators. All these researchers will reach a consensus, and for people who are interested or have better insights, they will gather together and then put together a proposal and then push it onto the forum here. And then in the next few calls, developers here will review the AIP they've been listed. So AIP can actually be proposed by anyone. So during this call, the researcher will review the AIP and they will also discuss here. And once they reach a consensus, it means that most of the people believe that this is actually a reasonable upgrade. They will assign people in charge of the execution and the testing of the upgrade. So you can see, like, in addition to the consensus call, ACDC, we also have the ACDT, which is a testing call. So it means that the people in charge of the upgrade will put together a test version of the upgrade and then run it on the DevNet. So it means the developer's version of the Ethereum testnet, and then to see how it goes. And if it's all right, they will move on to the execution. So during the execution call, they will talk about what kind of upgrade they would like to push from DevNet to testnet and then so this is the decision process going on when people are deciding how to put together and implement the EIP. So it's not just by Ethereum Foundation, it's actually a community-owned process. Researchers from Ethereum Foundations or the developers from third-party protocols client developers like GETH developers and then this kind of softwares, and also and like maybe the flashbot like kind of quant strategy traders, they all come together and then decide and then test and then implement the AIP. So the whole process is actually very democratic. Let's go back to what FuSaka and the Glamsterdam is about. So we were talking that all this upgrade, Pectra, FuSaka, and Glamsterdam are trying to make Ethereum more capable. Pectra is focusing on the user's UI side, and for the FuSaka and Glamsterdam is most focusing on the infrastructure, the user experience side. So for FuSaka, while there are many EIP included in the FuSaka, but the most interesting one is actually EIP 594. It's called Pure Data Availability Sampling. What this is about is that there are many L2s built on top of the Ethereum, and right now, for this L2 to either propose transaction or to read data from Ethereum, they need to do it through a data structure called blob. And right now, for Ethereum to process all the requests sent by the L, they need to actually download, read through, and analyze all the blob data sent by each of this L. You can probably imagine the whole process is very time consuming. The upgrade is saying that now they come up with a method to allow the Ethereum only read a few samples out of all the blobs. Therefore, they are still able to authenticate the transaction or a request proposed by the L2 and process their transactions. It means that they get to increase the speed of the mainnet, how the mainnet process all these requests from L. The biggest implication this upgrade is that the gas limit can be further increased. When we talk about gas limit, it is referring to the maximum amount of gas can be used by a single block. All kind of transaction, as long as it's on-chain, you use gas. For example, swap, sign, swap, and then send, deposit, withdraw. All these transactions use gas. So the higher the gas limits, it means that the more transaction can be processed within the same block. And right now, it means that because right now, with this upgrade, the time required for the mainnet to process the request from L2 is much less. So it means that the block can therefore accommodate more transaction, and therefore it means that the block limit will be increased accordingly. And this is also part of the Ethereum core developers roadmap. So you can see this is a chart of the Ethereum average gas limit. So gas limit is actually not determined by anyone. It's actually a consensus formed by all the non-validators and also by the client builder, like the gas builders. So the validators will, because when they are pushing the block, they will propose the gas limit. And the gas limit need to be agreed by all the validators. And you can see like in the just few days ago, there's a jump in the gas limit. So it means that even before the Pure DAS EIP 7594, the validators have already agreed to push the gas limit upward. So it's already happening, and this EIP 7594 is just to make the process going faster. Because if they're just pushing the gas limit higher, however, the resources required to process transaction is still pretty heavy, then they cannot do it like easily. But with this EIP 7594, right now, they only need to spend, for example, 10% of the resources previously required. Then they can process more transaction within the same block. And the reason why they have to have a limit on the gas that can be used within the block is because there's another concept called block time. So block time right now is like 12 seconds. It means that a block need to be processed within 12 seconds and they need to move on to the next block. So if there are too many transactions being bundled within one block, it means that it's very likely it will take more than 12 seconds to process the block. Then the whole chain might be, and the chain will therefore be malfunctioning. So this is the reason why before they further push up the gas limit, they need to make the process easier to handle the transactions. So this is the most interesting upgrade from the FuSaka EIP 7594. And now we can look at just like the concept of FuSaka about trying to make Ethereum more efficient in processing the transaction. The most interesting upgrade within this EIP 778 reduce block latency. And the proposal is going to reduce the Ethereum slot time from second to 6 seconds. So just like we said, there's a concept called block time, and there's also a concept called block limit. So this upgrade is aiming to reduce the block time from 12 seconds to 6 seconds. After this upgrade is executed, it will be more demanding for the validators to meet the criteria and to process the transaction in time. Because after the EIP 7594, the gas limit will be further increased from where we right now. The whole process is also trying to filter out the incapable with this upgrade to increase gas limit and to reduce the block time from 12 seconds to 6 seconds. Those who are not capable of processing the transaction in time will be punished and therefore will be kicked out of the queue. They're trying to do it step by step and make sure to give them enough time to catch up. For those who are not capable of catching up, they will be removed from the queue. Overall, later on, the Ethereum will be very capable and the Ethereum as a chain will be much more efficient. This is about some of the upgrades that are going to be implemented during the FuSaka and also during the roadmap for core developers of Ethereum. It's actually pretty clear. They're trying to improve the user's experience, not just on the UI, but also from the infrastructure to make it easier for users to execute more complicated transactions and also make it feel better for users when they're interacting with them because it's going to be faster and then it's more efficient.